Welcome to the Legacy Series, Living a Legacy. I'm your host, Bramante Bryant. Imagine, if you will, the nation's capital, late 1960s after the riots, the emergence of go-go, the message of funk and soul, an outlet needed to express either frustration or motivation in the form of art and entertainment. Along comes an afro-wearing, fist-raising teacher and an empathetic educator, preacher's kid, hailing from Virginia by way of California. The duo have only one thing in common: the mission to make a difference. This is the story of Carol, Darryll, and CD Enterprises. Let's talk a little bit about the arts and entertainment scene in the District of Columbia in the 60s and 70s.
Neighborhoods, churches, community organizations, civic groups took care of their neighborhoods pretty well. Local bands were very active with cabarets, but you also had DC Broadway, for lack of a better term, with all the theaters on U Street. Bohemian Caverns was a jazz place. Right after the riots, the temperature changed, and that's when another kind of activity as far as education and providing stuff with for kids in neighborhoods got a little bit more attention.
I didn't spend much time in DC because the riots had just occurred. We had community theater in Virginia, believe it or not. It was fun. The kids had a lot to do, and until I got into the activities of the city, I didn't see many concerts.
How did you meet? How did you start working together?
Besides teaching school, I had developed an advertising agency and a PR firm. So my graphics guy, a guy named Maceo Leatherwood, had invited me to come out because he thought I could be a part of this thing that was developing, which was a nonprofit arts organization. They had a focus of trying to bring things to the community. They were involved with different people that were maybe with the Park Service or the Department of Recreation. And they had funds circulating saying that if y'all come over the program, you can possibly get it funded and do something good in the community. Then my guys one day said, we need to go visit this lady. And I'm saying, okay. And I walked into her house and I'm saying, what's this? Because it didn't make sense to me, but it made sense to me later because I found out, and I'm gonna take her lead. She was working with her sister, Virginia, who was an artist and also was trying to get a toehold into the arts community in the DC area. And a gentleman named Van Tile Whitfield, who at that time was working with the DC Commission on the Arts. No.
National
Endowment of the Arts. National Endowment. And then that was like an open door for her to find a place to help her sister get integrated into the situation. But also she heard the story of what Tony and the guys were talking about as far as putting on a festival or a celebration. At that particular time it was going to be called Roberta Flack Day because Tony was trying to be a road manager for Roberta Flack. And he had the Bohemian Caverns. He was very tight with Les McCann, who played the Bohemian Caverns a lot. So it was a circle, a group of people who had a common interest: music, arts, education, etc. And both of us are educators. I was a phys ed teacher, and she was also a teacher in San Diego.
And what was your impression of Darryll?
Well, first we didn't get along at all.
Why not?
He didn't know why I was in this, and he didn't like, I guess, the dominant role that I had been given, which I didn't really want, but I was supposed to kind of take over the planning for Human Kindness, for Roberta Flack Day, because they only had 5 weeks to go, and Tony was way behind the 8 ball. And for some reason, my sister suggested me, and they all end up, and I said, well, I don't want to do a Roberta Flack Day. What's that mean to me?
But you did it.
No.
You did not.
I did Human Kindness Day.
Well, talk about Human Kindness Day. That's a good segue. In many ways, it was kind of the springboard of
to everything else.
Everything else.
Neil Diamond did a song, Touch of Human Kindness, which I love. And so I told Tony and the crew, well, geez, I'll do something honoring Roberta Flack, but I want to do something meaningful. I want to work with kids, and I want to do something that spreads across and can make a real dent. And I want to do something about human kindness, because let's face it, we all need to do something about human kindness at that point after the riots. So they let me call it Human Kindness Day in honor of Roberta Flack. And I was very fortunate with Macia Leatherwood and Floretta McKenzie, the assistant superintendent then of DC schools, to let me set up art and writing contests and all kinds of things with the kids, and got me involved in exhibits. We did the first exhibit at the Smithsonian ever, Black exhibit. That was with the help of Coretta King. So we were trying to make an impact in a different way. And it was not so big to begin with, but there was a lot of interest in it. And at the same time, this proposal that we had written, that we had gone to the National Endowment for a summer hut, for an educational program in the parks, got accepted. And there I was, or there they were, and they needed somebody to run it.
Talk a little bit about what it was like then, the community, neighbors, being involved. What was the scene like?
I came out of HBCU. I came out of Central State University. I went to jail for protesting in Yellow Springs because of something silly, but it was something that our crew stood for at that time. So my conscious level in reference to the community, culture, was pretty high. And I grant Central State did that for me. So when I came home, I had an afro. I was, paying attention, wearing dashikis, and I was paying attention to things that made sense to my community. And I ended up being a phys ed teacher in the hood in the Southeast. So I also recognized the pitfalls. I mean, we had a basketball court with no nets. And, to go to the athletic department ask for strings, they look at you like crazy. So I went to the sporting goods and bought my own strings and put it up. My whole corner lit up, you know what I mean? So I knew what that meant. Tony Taylor was very adamant and a very good presenter of ideas. Maceo was a very great graphics guy. Lou Stovall was a great arts guy. So being in that environment also kind of complemented my attitude and my focus of what I wanted to see happen. So it was an easy sell, because after reading her proposal, recognized that the government had granted it a window, and then it was up to us to now fundraise to match that and build onto that. Us going out, having meetings with different organizations, businesses, etc., I got a better understanding of who she was as a person. And I think she had a better understanding of who I was as a person. Because basically we came as somebody that threw us in the room together and said, oh, y'all figure it out. That didn't work for me. But later on, the understanding of where her head was, her heart was, and and the respect she had for the culture, as well as the respect she had for education, made a lot of sense to me. And that was like really the focus point of our relationship, and it's been over almost 50 years. I think also who's counting? So I think that in the things that we were able to develop in the park, Summer Hut for an example, was an incredible statement for that era, because DC Department of Recreations would come over there and be a part of it and bring us stuff. The National Park Service would bring us different things that they had programmed and integrated into what we already had established. But before, they weren't getting that kind of activity because all they had was a swimming pool out in South. It wasn't anything proactively happen. As Carol said, they used to call it the armpit of the nation, because nobody really put forth that kind of activity. And then to see the results of what we had developed there, we ended up with like 500-some-thousand people over a collective summer and got an award from Anheuser-Busch. McDonald's Corporation ended up building the McDonald's house from a proposal that she had written. We didn't get paid. We didn't pay ourselves. We made sure everybody else got covered, especially as the programs went on. Because it didn't mean anything to me to grab a bag and not leave anything or have anything develop. I'd rather give a bag and plant a good seed and let it grow and do what it do.
I graduated from American University, and my degree was in journalism. And I went to do an interview with Curtis Mayfield. And when I went to do the interview, I was introduced to Darryll Brooks and Carol Kirkendall. And they told me what they were doing, and it excited me because I love working with young writers. And that's how it got started. And that summer, which was the second year of the Summer Hut, I became the director of the Summer Hut. And also was a part of the Human Kindness Day. That was Dick Gregory. And then the next year was Ali and Nina Simone. And then the year of that, of course, was Stevie.
Go back a little bit to 1968. Dr. King is assassinated. Carol, you had talked about how Coretta Scott King had helped with the program you did at the Smithsonian. John Conyers introduces legislation, right, to make Martin Luther King's birthday a national holiday. That takes a while, but a few years later, in the mid-'70s, you all work with Stevie Wonder on helping to propel that to become a law. Talk a little bit about your relationship with Stevie Wonder and the connection to the MLK Day and him working with you all.
They want to honor his birthday. And I think the thing that transpired also is because of our relationship, our understanding, and our implementation of Human Kindness Day in 72, 73, 74, 75, we knew how the Park Service worked. Got a call from Dick Griffey and Black Bull, which is Stevie's company, and said, hey man, we need to do a fundraiser. Can you promote a show for us at the Capitol Center? And we'll raise funds to help out. And we said yes, immediately. We'll set the whole show up, do everything you asked for, have everything there.
Happy birthday was born.
And the money, y'all got the money. And the show sold out. But that's when he sang his happy birthday. And it was incredible.
Martin Luther King Jr. Yes. National holiday.
You all stayed in the nonprofit circle for a while, and it's a long time, and then you would pivot to the for-profit.
We couldn't continue our programs because they stopped funding us and other arts organizations. In 1976, the government had done their due, supposedly, which you've heard a million times, but with other things. And so they had nothing more to do. And then we had families. We had to begin to raise them, so we had to make some money. The artists that were involved in our summer hut, or that would come and meet with the kids or work with the students with us to let our students go on the road with them so they could become sound technicians or stagehands. They would then say, you guys want to do a concert, we'll do it with you. And so we got whole tours to begin with, and we really didn't know what that meant.
One of them was Parliament Funkadelic, right? And many folks don't know where that term Chocolate City came from and how it applied to the district and still does. But you all do, and there's some connection to that and Parliament Funkadelic.
If you listen to the track itself, he talks about all the major cities where blacks had a greater population than 50%. And at one time, DC, before gentrification, had, it was very well populated. And, that's what it was. And this is the seat of the government, the federal government. If you know anything about DC, we got the federal enclave and we got the district. And those two waters don't mix. He told that story in his own way with Stevie Wonder being this person and Muhammad Ali and Aretha Franklin having different roles. And I think in that fantasy, it was a beautiful thing because it gave an identity to a city and to a culture that's sitting here, because a lot of the folks living here at that time, and still live here at that time, are descendants of slaves that came up from the Virginias and the Carolinas, and they nestled here in the district because the DC government was giving jobs. There wasn't a lot of jobs in some of those other areas. So when they migrated here, it made another kind of sense.
Talk a little bit about the music today that DC is really specifically known for as the creator, and that's go-go.
There were local groups in the metropolitan area, like Sergio and the Free Souls, Black Heat, Experience Unlimited, Chuck Brown and the Soul Searchers. They were doing the cabarets. They were the entertainment of the masses, for lack of a better term, at your Masonic temples, at Northwest Gardens, at the Panorama Room. When we went to Anacostia Park, we had a younger set there, younger kids there, and they were playing their music. And they were coming from different sections of DC, Maryland, Virginia, Northeast, Southeast, and what have you. And we would book them 5 days a week. And they had opportunities to present their presentation to maybe 20,000, 10,000, 5,000, whoever was in the park that day. They were probably as ill-equipped as a neighborhood could be. They might have had a drum. They might have played on buckets and cans and cowbells. They not had no transportation, so we were able to provide them with a sound system, transportation to get to the park, get back home. But there was a genius in our neighborhood named Charles Brown, Chuck Brown. And if you ever listen to the records he did, Get Your Whistles and Blow, that basically talked about Anacostia because kids were using those whistles to get across town. That's where you heard those whistles all the time. He talked about education. He did a call and response to kids about girls taking care of themselves, guys respecting the girls, girls respecting the guys. So he was communicating all those kinds of positive imaging into our community.
Let's not limit CD to the urban acts because they were the only promoters who did the Rolling Stones. The only urban promoters, I should say, who did the Rolling Stones. They did Willie Nelson, Leon Russell. So their music spread out across, all the genres. And Milli Vanilli, everything about those brothers we found out not to be real. Even the Dreads were wigs.
We have Willie Nelson, Rolling Stones, Go-Go, we'll get to Prince, we'll get to the Jacksons. When you think back on that, what does it say to you? And again, I'm only just naming a handful of them, but those are some
relationships and doing good business, having respect for what you do and people respecting you for what you've done.
God blessed us with some very fine people to work with.
Well, at one of those people, you had a magical time, I guess, with Prince and snow.
We get ready to do the show. The show sold out. There's, half a foot of snow all over the place in front of the Armory. We made some calls, the Army got involved, and they cleaned everything. Spotless. So when Prince and them come to town, because they had heard everybody was bugged about all this snow, and they come in by bus, they see all the snow. And Prince looks at Billy and says, "How'd they do that?" And Billy says, "I told you, them street, their name is G Street, them street man." I couldn't nothing but bust out laughing because they were impressed with our hustle. When Purple Rain came, we ended up getting in the first month of shows he did, we ended up doing 7 shows at the Capitol Center and then 3 shows in Greensboro Coliseum. And through that, Prince tells Billy, "I want to give something back to the community. I want to do a free show."
Oh, that was wonderful.
So we ended up hooking him up with Gallaudet College and did a free show at Gallaudet.
But one of the most impressive things in my life was attending the concert at Gallaudet because you'd stand, you would have to, all of you stand and just cry and feel.
Tearjerker.
Because all these kids, they knew every word and they felt the sound. So they were responding like they could hear. I mean, you could not.
They had signers on all around, and you had kids at all kinds of contraptions with their nose and their head and beds that couldn't move, you know what I mean? But their reaction was incredible.
They were unbelievable.
So then they stopped the show, and they wanted to give Prince a poster or something like that. I'm talking about hardcore cats in this business crying. Prince was breaking a tear. The vibration in that room was like unbelievable. And he wrote a check for everything. So those are the things that will keep us, or has kept us doing this, because we've seen the essence of kindness. We've seen the essence of goodwill. And we've seen what art, education, and that's a nice word, and what love has been able to accomplish.
The Summer Spirit Festival, year after year, how did it begin?
It was just a carryover of what really Human Kindness Day. We hadn't been able to get back to that. And we knew we were not going to be able to have the monument grounds anymore. And Meriwether Post is a delightful place. And the schools we would involve in the city, and we did, and it's been great. We've had Erykah Badu several times. She's been a marvelous supporter. Jill Scott several times.
Queen Latifah.
And
We can name hundreds.
Lauryn Hill. I mean, just some absolutely phenomenal acts.
Is there any sort of one obstacle that throughout your half a century involvement in arts and entertainment in the city that you have found to be the most onerous, the toughest?
The thing that bothers me personally is that here's a city that one time was 70% African American, and it's much less. We still don't own any major venues. We're still sharecroppers. We don't have the facility. We have the expertise, but we don't have the facility. We can't go to banks or get big loans to get some of these other facilities and build our own place. So imagine with all the entertainment we have. We have the Daughters of the American Revolution, you know their history. We have another guy who has a venue who's saying, I'm gonna move my wagon to Virginia. You have 930 Club, who's been incredible, but they have some nice facilities. But there's not a black owned facility. We can't call our own shots. That means we can't participate in all the ancillary incomes that comes in from the people that we put into a room. And that to me is a sin.
It isn't what you see now, it's what we've seen all the way along. And what this community has given to our world. They told us Anacostia was the armpit of the nation and maybe the world. I'll tell you, I would raise my children or have my children there and all of their children any day. The families were strong. The children were taught right. And if they didn't do something right, let me tell you, they got what they should have. And somehow, all of that is gone. The communities have been torn apart, totally. And they weren't allowed, the people that lived there, they weren't allowed to own, as Darryll was talking. Ownership is what is needed to keep a people, a family anywhere, to pass on, to grow, to believe in. And that I find very difficult to accept at this old age, and after 52 years in the business. And it's not just about our business, it's a way of life. But music has a lot to do with people getting together and more of the kind of positiveness of people getting together. We need to be able to feel and see and hear.
We have media here in DC.
Yes.
WHUR, WPFW, Radio 1 station, and that sort of thing. The music that comes out of some of these networks are dumbed down music. They talk about nothing. They don't talk about family wholesomeness or nothing. They just bark out garbage. Garbage. HUR, to me, was a beacon back in the day. Mm-hmm. They talked about positive things, they gave you information, they gave you news and kept you current. To me, WPFW has programming that does that as well. WHUT is doing that now. But we need that in such a great level to wake these folks up, because they've been dumbed down so long. And the other thing that's always kind of bothered me is that the people who end up running the city come from out of the city. So they don't have any kind of connection to the roots of this city. And I think the tribalness of go-go, for an example, that Chuck and a lot of local groups have cultivated, is what keeps a certain attitude and moxie and power on the streets of DC. Being woke during this time is very important. And through the arts, through music, the graphics, through film, through those things that present educational and awareness is what we need more of.
Have you thought about what you would want the legacy of CD Enterprises to be
Help and service.
help and service.
That's it.
That's good.
Is that enough?
That's all I need. And don't forget to put 2 L's in my name.
I'm blessed with great kids and great grandchildren that are doing phenomenally well. That's my legacy.
This concludes the story of CD Enterprises. Dancing in the parks, blowing whistles, riding bikes at Anacostia Park, tickets to the hottest concerts, memories created with over a half-century of service, entertainment from the dynamic duo, Carol and Darryll. That's 2 R's and 2 L's. They set out to take the arts and entertainment industry by storm. Not just concert promoters, but activists promoting a movement for the people, by the people. Not just another concert, but an event. Thank you for watching.
This program was brought to you by WHUT and made possible by contributions from viewers like you. For more information on this program or any other program, please visit our website at WHUT.org. Thank you.